So Ron DeSantis is under attack, surprise, surprise, for signing what some call a sad white people bill. Is that true? Let's see. So one of my friends sent me a text message and brought this story to my attention. It's about Ron DeSantis, of course. He's probably one of the most attacked governors in the United States, in my opinion. My governor in the great state of Florida. Great for right now. Hope it stays that way. So he signed into law this bill, Florida Senate Bill 148. And some news outlets are calling it the sad white people bill. And I thought to myself, let me read these articles and see what they say about it, and then go to the actual bill, see what the bill actually says, and let's see what the difference is. Because surely the media wouldn't lie to me, right? They wouldn't tell me something that wasn't true. Well, we all know how that works out. So let's look at what this sad white people bill is. But first, let's look at what the media has to say about it. So I'm on an article from MSNBC, and we're just going to read through. The title of the article is Ron DeSantis backed a sad white people bill, has roots in Florida's racist past. A Florida Senate committee approved a bill this week to make illegal for school or workplace lessons and trainings to make white people feel discomfort. Okay, the Florida Senate Education Committee approved a bill Tuesday that would effectively codify white fragility into law. Senate Bill 148, which should really be called the Sad White People Bill, seeks to bar public or workplaces from making people feel discomfort or guilt about their race during lessons or trainings focused on inequality. Republican Governor Ron DeSantis has endorsed the bill, which includes several provisions outlined in his Stop Woke Act. I like that, Stop Woke Act. That's hilarious. A purported ban on critical race theory that was introduced last month. For the record, critical race theory is a college-level area of study and isn't taught in K-12 public schools. Educating people about the inhumane ways white people position themselves atop America's social hierarchy is a direct threat to that racist power structure. White people are most likely to feel discomforted by these lessons. Let's see. That's why if the white parents complaining about black authors weren't enough, it's clear that the Florida bill is designed to coddle white people, even though it doesn't mention them specifically. So I want you to notice something. Articles, I'm noticing they do this a lot. They will bury the lead or bury the actual story at least 2 or 3 paragraphs within. So if the bill doesn't mention white people, then how does the author of this article assume the bill is about white people? And generically, okay, out of fairness, generically, I can see how he could come to this conclusion, but his conclusion would draw his conclusion would draw out the opinion that this bill is specifically for white people and white people alone, right? That's what I would, if I was reading this article, that would be my first thought. Okay. An individual, by virtue of his or her sex, does not bear responsibility for actions committed in the past. Okay, let me read that again. An individual, by virtue of his or her race or sex, does not bear responsibility for actions committed in the past by the other members of the same race or sex, which I'm trying to find the problem with that statement right there. The bill states. It actually states a little more than that, and this article is being very deceptive. The bill states an individual should not be made to feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress or on account of his or her race. Lessons about racism or sexism are okay, but only if they meet the literally impossible standard of not offending anyone. This is not true either. And it's funny because I actually read through the bill, and I'm gonna go to it. And when I read through it, I just highlighted a couple excerpts, and I was like, man, this is really not what they're saying it is. The bill appears to suggest school or professionals or professional instructors can use lesson plans to address in an age appropriate manner the topics of sexism, slavery, racial oppression, racial segregation, and racial discrimination according to the bill, but classroom instruction and curriculum may not be used to indoctrinate or persuade students to a particular point of view inconsistent with the principles of this subsection or state academic standards. It states. Now again, it's funny how they bury the lead here, because when you read the bill, it's not barring people from teaching about anything. What this bill is barring is it's barring indoctrination, and it covers this right here, right? I don't want my kids indoctrinated. Teach my kids about the world and everything going on in the world in public schools, but I don't want my kids indoctrinated to believe this sect or this sect is correct. Let them make up their own mind. This is how school was started, right? When you look at the Greek philosophers and what they did when they started formal education, it wasn't necessarily to teach a specific subject, but it was to train people and give them a thirst for learning and questioning and thinking outside the box. So to clarify, Florida conservatives are prioritizing white hypersensitivity over truthful teaching. They are apparently saying lessons about America's racist and sexist past are acceptable only if they don't offend white people. Okay, so you get the gist of the article, right? This is how this bill is being painted by MSNBC and the likes, all of these people within this same ilk. So we're going to go to the bill, and I'm going to read off some things I highlighted. I'm not going to read the whole thing because, as you can see, it's pretty long, 18 pages, but I'm going to highlight some things that you should probably know about this bill. So let me see. Actually, I meant to highlight this up here and I didn't, so I'm going to start up here. Okay. So unlawful employment practices. Subsection 8A, subjecting any individual as a condition of employment, membership, certification, licensing, credentialing, or passing an examination to training, instructions, or any other required activity that espouses, promotes, advances, inculcates, or compels such individual to believe any of the following concepts constitutes discrimination based on race, color, sex, or national origin under this section. Members of one race, color, sex, or national origin are morally superior to members of another race, color, sex, or national origin. So let me ask you a question. Who has a problem with that? Who has a problem with the fact that the state of Florida says, yo, you can't make it grounds for employment that this person has to learn and believe that one race, sex, or color is morally superior than another? Who has a problem with that? Yeah, I don't have a problem with that right there. I don't want to be taught that some race is superior over me because of their color, or I'm inferior because of mine. I don't know about you. I'm good with that. An individual, by virtue of his or her race, color, sex, or national origin, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. I don't have any problem with the state of Florida barring instructional institutions from telling me that because I'm black, I'm oppressing somebody. Anybody got a problem with that? I didn't see white people specifically mentioned in here. So this covers everybody. This applies to everyone. I don't know. An individual's moral character or status as either privileged or oppressed is necessarily determined by his or her race, color, sex, or national origin. How many black people out there have complained that white people think all black people are poor, all black people are impoverished, and you have a problem with that? This bill's saying in an instructional institution of higher learning, they can't teach you or tell you that you have to believe that some race is privileged over you and that you're somehow a savage because you're black. You see what I'm doing here is I'm drawing a distinction between what that article said versus what is actually in the bill and the things that are actually covered in the bill. This protects everyone. I like how they try to sell this like it's, oh, this is just a white fragility bill. That's nonsense. These people that argue against stuff like this are the very same people that would have argued in favor of slavery. Members of one race, color, sex, or national origin cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to race, color, sex, or national origin. So you can't be taught that you don't have to respect this person or that person because they're Indian or Arabic or white or black. This protects everyone. An individual, by virtue of his or her color, race, color, sex, or national origin, bears responsibility for or should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment because of actions committed in the past by other members of the same race, color, sex, or national origin. How many black people out there, how many black Hispanic people out there want to be judged or held accountable for the things that thugs across the United States and many black and Hispanic neighborhoods commit and crimes they commit against, other people? How many of us want to be held accountable for that? Yeah, I'm good with this right here. An individual, by virtue of his or her race, color, sex, or national origin, should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment to achieve diversity, equity, or inclusion. How many black people out there, how many Hispanic people out there want to be held back and not allowed to get somewhere, take a test, or get into a college because of the color of your skin? Listen to this again. An individual, by virtue of his or her race, color, sex, or national origin, should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment to achieve diversity, equity, or inclusion. The reason I said that way is if you're in favor of somebody being discriminated against because of their race for the cause of equity, it's not too long before that pendulum swings and it's against you. This is what a lot of people don't realize. An individual should feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her race, color, sex, or national origin. How many of you, black and Hispanic people, and there's a reason I'm selling this way, to explain to you and express to you that this protects everyone. This bill is specifically to protect the rights of everyone, regardless of your race, color, sex, or national origin. How many of you out there want to be made to feel guilty because of the crimes committed in the black and Hispanic neighborhoods by gangs? Do you want to be held accountable for that? Held accountable for their actions? Nah, I don't think anybody does. Such virtues as merit, excellence, hard work, fairness, neutrality, objectivity, and racial colorblindness are racist or sexist, or were created by members of a particular race, color, sex, or national origin to oppress members of another race, color, sex, or national origin. To me, this is common sense. Virtue is not white or black. Merit is not white or black. Excellence is not white or black. Hard work, fairness, neutrality, objectivity is not white or black. It's common sense. And anybody with a working brain understands that. Uh, Paragraph A. Now, listen to this. This is what got me when I read this. This is when I was like, all right, the news media has definitely gone off the rails, and they definitely do not care about truth at all. If any provision of this section or its application to any person or circumstance is held invalid, okay, let me go. I skipped a paragraph. I was reading paragraph B. May not be construed. All right. So you listening? Paragraph A may not be construed to prohibit discussion of the concepts listed therein as part of a course of training or instruction, provided such training or instruction is given in an objective manner without endorsement of the concepts. The bill just said you're not barred from teaching about any of these things. But what you can't do is you can't teach these things as an endorsed truth that a student must accept. You teach it, you let them make up their mind. The media is trash. I'm telling you right now, the media is complete trash. If any provision of this section or its application to any person or circumstance is held invalid, the invalidity does not affect other provisions or applications of the section which can be given effect without the invalid provision or words or are blah 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 or my bad or application, and to this end the provisions of the section are severable. All right, I'm going to read another section. To me, these things, in my opinion, are common sense, things that should be taught, things that we should agree on, right? This is the United States of America. The history and content of the Declaration of Independence, including national sovereignty, natural law, self-evident truth, equality of all persons, limited government, popular sovereignty, and inalienable rights of life, liberty, and property, and how they form the philosophical foundation of our government. This bill is saying, yo, you got to teach people about the Declaration of Independence and what it means to the equality and freedom of all people, not just one race. We got to teach about limited government. We want the government out of our lives. We got to teach about popular sovereignty, inalienable rights, rights that the government does not give. We're born with these rights. Who in their right mind has a problem with this? And if you do, you must want to see the collapse of the United States, in my humble opinion. The history of the United States, including the period of discovery, early colonies, the War for Independence, the Civil War, which is about slavery, the expansion of the United States to its present boundaries, the World Wars, and the Civil Rights Movement, let me read that again, and the Civil Rights Movement to the present American history shall be viewed as factual, not as constructed, shall be viewed as knowable, teachable, and testable, and shall be defined as the creation of a new nation based largely on the universal principles stated in the Declaration of Independence. Yo, this bill is not trying to hide anything about the United States. As a matter of fact, so they cover the teaching about World War II and the Holocaust, and I purposely skipped that. I'm gonna tell you why I purposely skipped that, because I know some people are gonna read this bill, they're gonna highlight that, and they're gonna gloss over the very next part. And this is the next part: the history of African Americans, including the history of African peoples before the political conflicts that led to the development of slavery, the passage to America, the enslavement experience, abolition, and the contributions of African Americans to society. Instructional materials shall include the contributions of African Americans to American society. So the bill is saying, yo, you got to teach about Black people before slavery. It can't just be about slavery. And you got to teach about the political climate that led to the transfer of African people from their home countries to the United States. You got to teach about their enslavement, what happened to them during their enslavement, abolishment of slavery, and you have to teach about the black people's effects in American history. Yo, when I see black people especially complaining about this bill right here, my head is almost about to explode. I'm not even gonna lie to you. The true effects of all alcoholic and intoxicating liquors and beverages and narcotics upon the human body and mind. I'm okay with this. I'm going to tell you why I'm okay with this. We're in a culture right now where drugs and drug use is celebrated. And what this bill is attempting to do is let's teach kids about the effects of drugs. They're going to make their decision on whether they want to do it or not, but let's at least at a bare minimum teach them about the effects of drugs. Here's the unfortunate thing. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, the answer is pull your kids out of public school. I agree with you. What about kids who have parents that are drug addicted? Kids who have parents that are not around, that are not in their lives, that are not active. Not everybody's going to be homeschooled. Not everybody has good parents. Not everybody has involved parents. So what do you do as a society? What do we do for these kids that don't have this structure? I'm okay with this. Kindness to animals. Yo, let me tell you why this is a huge thing. You might think this is small. If you look up serial killers and you look up one of the things that's kind of central to the theme of serial killers and their early life, cruelty to animals is definitely a big deal. The history of the state, the conservation of natural resources. And it's funny because people always try to make, and this is not necessarily an endorsement of the Republican Party, but people on the left always try to make Republicans out to be, oh, they don't care about the environment. They want us all to die. Funny how this bill is seeking to protect some of the things that the left rails on the Republican Party for. It's hilarious. Okay. The qualities and responsibilities of patriotism and citizenship, including kindness, respect for authority, life, liberty, and personal property, honesty, charity, racial, ethnic, and religious tolerance, and cooperation. Yo, who has a problem with this? Who has a problem with this? I'm very confused. If you have a problem with teaching our kids in school, now you could go off on a tangent about patriotism, neither here nor there. If you have a problem with teaching your kids, this is the country we live in, teaching them about citizenship, including kindness, respect for authority, right? Life, liberty, and personal property. So the first thing I know some of my libertarian brethren will see is respect for authority. Well, first of all, the Bible teaches about respect for authority, so I'm not even going to go there with you. But in that sentence, it also says life, liberty, and personal property. Yo, even libertarians should have some respect for that right there. No individual is inherently racist. True statement. Sexist. True statement. Or oppressive, another true statement, whether consciously or unconsciously, solely by the virtue of his or her race or sex. Nobody's racist because they're white or they're black or they're Indian or they're Hispanic or they're Arabic. That's not a thing, right? People can be trained up, right, to be racist, but you're not racist just solely because of how you're born. It's ridiculous. I don't have a problem with anything this is saying so far. No race is inherently superior to another race. Funny that they would have a problem with this bill right here. So, in my opinion, that's why I said this is my opinion. These are the same people that would have argued to maintain and keep segregation. You have a problem with a bill that says, yo, you can't teach that one race is inherently superior to another race. This is literally what white supremacists taught. And still do teach that they're superior solely because of their race. This bill is saying, yeah, we not rocking with that in Florida. That's not how we getting down. No individual should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment solely or partly on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, disability, or sex. Yo, who has a problem with this? I am so confused. Matriarchy or traits such as hard work ethic are not racist, but fundamental to the right to pursue happiness and be rewarded for industry. Agreed. Yo, it's funny how they try to sell this thing versus what's actually in it. Require, when appropriate, to the comprehension of students that materials for social science, history, or civics classes contain the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States. A reviewer may not recommend any instructional materials that contain any matter reflecting unfairly upon persons because of their race, color, creed, national origin, ancestry, gender, religion, disability, socioeconomic status, or occupation, or otherwise contradict the principle enumerated under State Bill 1003.42. Yo, who has a problem with this? Some school can't come in and say, all right, now we're going to teach that you're inferior because you're black. You're inferior because you're white. You're inferior because you're disabled. You're inferior because you're Indian. You're inferior because you're a Muslim or you're a Christian or you're Buddhist. Yo, this bill is simply protecting people's right to be individuals. It's funny. It's funny how they sold this bill. I think that's all I had highlighted because, like I said, there's some more in it. Those are the key sections, the sections that they were seeking to roast Ron DeSantis over. Yo, all I'm going to say is the media is trash. And when you read headlines, you seriously need to look into what's being said because, yo, they playing on your ignorance. And that's a fact.